8 seconds.
The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Good morning. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip, and CJ is now going to weigh in from an undisclosed location in a bunker. CJ.
Hello there. How are you? Good morning.
Good. I hope you have enough provisions.
I've been here since Wednesday, and it gets kind of lonely. All I have is, my keyboard and this small room with the lovely background.
Well, we have today's normally our guest show, and again, we have a guest that's MIA. He was scheduled to be on, and unfortunately we haven't heard from him. We don't know if he's been kidnapped by the evil forces or he's been waylaid on his way here. Unfortunately, it was Dan Robillard, who's been a community activist for a while, and has his finger on the pulse of what's going on in the community.
I wonder if he found out the drones were flying around looking for us.
Could be. Maybe he's on the way to the bunker rather than the studio.
Hey, that's always possible.
But we have, again, the topics of conversation have to be on what's current, and what is current, unfortunately, is two things: the criminal action against the mayor and the recall. And the recall, again, is still waiting for the signatures to be certified. This seems to be about as difficult as building the pyramids, because it's taking a very, very long time. And we're not really sure if this is intentional to allow the mayor the ability to prepare his legal challenges to delay the process even longer. So we are waiting. The last word we had was that we were going to get them today, and now that has been changed, revised. Latest is that it's going to be next week, probably late in the week. So it's everybody is waiting. Everybody's getting antsy. Everybody's getting a little crazy because everybody's chomping at the bit to begin to do things, and the idle hands are the devil's workshop. So we have people that are they're going a little bit. They're getting a little bit antsy, and there's nothing we can do about it. We have to wait and see. Just as we're waiting and seeing what the next step in the criminal saga of the city is. So we'll begin by talking about the recall. So CJ, let's hear from the undisclosed bunker here.
Well, Chip, it's getting to be very interesting, as you know. I'm not saying that there's any impropriety, but it just seems to me that it's taken an awful long time to certify approximately 5,500 signatures. My estimation of the 20 days required to collect that number of signatures is approximately 277 signatures a day. You would think that the elections office could possibly do that in 20, if we could do it in 20 days, then maybe the elections office would be able to certify the signatures in the 20 days. But I understand the situation they're in, because they want to be sure that every single signature that can be certified is certified. Now, already there's a lot of rumors floating around, and again, I say these are rumors, that the mayor's already been told that the recall people have the signatures, and he's prepping for his legal defense. And we can't confirm that, we can't deny it. I mean, that's a rumor, and rumors are flying around all over the city. And the longer this happens, the worse this gets. The people of Fall River are getting so antsy that on both sides, and you wrote a letter about this, they're starting to turn on each other as well as turn on the opposing groups. This is reminiscent of the days of the Civil War, when we just had the blue and the gray, and families were broken apart. And I think that's what's happening here. I think the people of Fall River are starting to really come apart, and we're doing the he said, she said, you're no good, and you're no good, and my guy's better than your guy. And, you know, it's getting terrible. And the worst thing is, not only is this taking place in public, it's taking place on Facebook. And, you know, that in and of itself is enough to just devastate the whole process for everybody. This is about the citizens of Fall River exercising their rights. This is not about any one person. It's not about you, it's not about me, it's not about Joe Smith, it's not about Bob, you know, Jones, it's not about Mary Smith. It's about people having their rights to remove Will Flanagan from office, because the people believe that financially he doesn't have the skills necessary to run the city, and as a manager he doesn't have those skills either. And those are two very important skills necessary to make Fall River a better place.
Well, I agree, and I think, number one, let me begin with the certification process. Obviously, I'm a little skeptical about what's going on, since I was involved in another signature gathering campaign, which actually had over 10,000 signatures submitted, and over 7,000 were certified, and that was done in a fairly rapid manner. And that was not a popular initiative. Well, it wasn't popular with the mayor because it was about removing the fire chief's job from civil service, which the mayor at the time, Bob Correa, had initiated that process, and we attempted to and we did get the signatures, and unfortunately, because of the legal machinations, even though we were right, you can't, you know, they got it up to the Hill, and the Hill kind of circumvented even the law. And they basically said, look, even if there's a law, there's no precedent, it'll have to go to the Supreme Court. Which brings me to another issue about the recall. I think that we have to understand two things. Number one, the recall is solely about the performance of the mayor, as the mayor. It's nothing about anything else. It's totally divorced from any other issues, your personal opinions of him, what your opinion is on the criminal aspects of what he's doing. It's about his performance as mayor. It's not about anything else. But secondly, I want to clear up a misconception about the recall. Many people say that the recall that was done a few years ago basically failed, but it did not fail. What happened was that the city threw legal roadblocks in for us even to get the petitions. So the people who were involved then had to make a decision. And I will tell you now what that decision was predicated on. It was predicated on money, plain and simple. We would have to go to court just to get the petitions. And then after we got the petitions, we would be facing exactly the same legal challenges as this recall initiative is going to face. The difference was they decided to begin the obstruction process before we even got the petitions. We could have gotten those petitions then. But at this point in time, there were more people involved, so they probably said to themselves, well, we'll give them the petitions, they'll never get the signatures. But the bottom line is, as we anticipated in the first go-round, there were going to be legal challenges. The difference was that it was basically gotten to the point where it became a moot point. Obviously, there weren't as many people involved, and it's great now that we've got more people engaged. The pay-as-you-throw has galvanized much of the community, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing that the people in Fall River seem to want to be heard. They want to go to the polls, and they want to tell everybody that they're not happy. But there's a characterization that the initial attempt was a failure. It wasn't a failure. It was a decision of the people, and there were fewer people then, that we just couldn't afford it. And that's where that adage, you can't fight City Hall, comes from. It's not because you're not right. Mayor Flanagan wasn't a better mayor the first time. More people know about him now, and he's had time to screw up even more. But the fact is, we were right about his inability to run this city then, as we are, in my opinion, right now about his inability. But the fact is, for all you people out there that watch this show, you have to support the fundraising effort, because all this work will not mean anything if we get tied up in court until this recall becomes a moot point and we have to drop it again. And lawyers don't work for free. You know, we've heard a lot of people say, let's get a lawyer to do it for free. Well, CJ and I met with an attorney who said, you know, I'd love to do this, but this case is going to take a tremendous amount of time, a tremendous amount of resources, and I'd have to and I don't have the staff, and if I did, it would be extremely expensive. And that's the problem. We are fighting an uphill battle, as we did from the very first initiative. The mayor has unlimited resources. Every time his wallet gets a little thin, he'll run another fundraiser. And people from Rhode Island and people from out of town who have political interests in his city will give him money. He hired the best legal firm in Rhode Island, specialists in the election process, very good litigators, because we checked into them, very expensive litigators, to throw roadblocks and delay the process. And the reality is, for all the people in the organization and out there in the community that think that, you know, they're somehow already celebrating, this is far from over, and it very well not succeed strictly because we don't have the financial resources. And that's something that's a travesty, but it's also a reality. So when you see fundraisers, buy tickets. At best, we're going to have 1/10 of the money he has. We're trying to get lawyers to give us a break on the cost and stuff, but the fact is, these people are, you know, super litigators, and they know that it's not their job to win. It's their job to delay. It's their job to delay and delay until this recall becomes a moot point. And they say, well, we're so close to the next election, it's irrelevant. So before we even get to a recall, which is another issue that we have to get people out to vote, and we'll deal with that again, I want to make it very, very clear here about the history of the recall. First recall didn't fail. This recall isn't a failure. If we don't get enough money, we may have to unfortunately give up and capitulate. The fact is, it doesn't make us wrong in our contention that he's not a good mayor. What it does, again, prove that the politicians always have the edge. They have more money, they have more access to the press, and the playing field is not level. Is it fair? No. I think it's an outrage that the citizens that they're elected to represent always have to start with 2 strikes against them because they don't have the financial resources to fight City Hall. So with that editorial comment, I'll turn it back over to CJ.
Well, you know, Chip, I'm going to play devil's advocate here, because people are going to turn around and say, uh-oh, the recall's in financial distress. They're going to fail now. And, I don't think that's what you're saying in your commentary. I don't believe that. And, I mean, you can refute me if I'm wrong, but I think what you're trying to ask for, and again, this is my interpretation, this isn't what you said, is that you want the people to become citizen revolutionaries. You want them to take ownership of this recall and say, this is about my rights. This is about me. This is about me helping the people of Fall River. This is about me taking back my city. This is about me becoming what I need to do, how I need to do it, where I need to be. Not what's going on with, the finances or the legal aspect. These maneuvers can be addressed by some people as it's my civic right to file these suits to stop you from recalling me. Other people say it's a wall that's just thrown up in front of the citizens so that they can't get their rights enacted. But the law is a two-edged sword. We both know that. So we have to be able to say that, and we have to be able to realize that we have to take the initiative to do what we need to do to make it happen.
No, you're right, CJ. Obviously, if we want to compare our financial abilities to theirs, yeah, we are. We are in the hole, and he knows it. And that's a fact. The fact is, can we debate the fact if O.J. Simpson couldn't afford Johnny Cochran, would he have got acquitted? Because if the glove don't fit, you must acquit. So the fact is, he can hire the top guns, he can hire lawyers, he can tie us up. It's a fact of life. The reason my commentary is about that is to stress the fact that, unfortunately, it's not about right or wrong. It gets back to what we always said, money. Follow the money. The fact is that, if it was that simple, and I wish it was, that the people, when they have a right to speak, and when we rise up like this, we just are allowed to speak. It should be, in my opinion, we got the signatures, let's have the election, because that's what the people who this government is made up of want to do. But unfortunately, as most people know, the law can be used against people. It's a process. Everybody has legal rights, and they have a legal right to challenge. You're right. But the fact is, challenging the day the signatures were brought in, that isn't frivolous and almost malicious attempt to make us spend money. I mean, even the city clerk knows that the law says that if government center is closed, if it's a weekend or a holiday, it's the next business day. Everybody knows that they didn't open government center, so we didn't have an opportunity to bring them down on the day because it was a holiday. And it's a fact of life. And what I wanted with my commentary to tell the people is, some people think that good intentions are enough. Unfortunately, in this battle, all the good intentions and all the hard work and as much passion as the people have, that just that passion and the feeling that you're right in removing this man as mayor actually is secondary to the fact that if we don't have the money to go through all the legal roadblocks that are going to be thrown in our way, that's the reason the first one didn't go forward. We just didn't have the money. We didn't have as many people. We started this one again because we had far more people that were outraged because of the pay-as-you-throw. So we have far more people, but these people also have to realize, besides being vocal, besides making the points about what the mayor's done wrong, which is what we want to do, stay on point, the fact is we need money. There's no one in this organization, that's a billionaire. I mean, maybe the mayor has people in his campaign that are billionaires that can give him $100,000. We got to sell cookies for $1 or something. We don't, we are the underdogs. We are the underdogs not because our position isn't right, not because we're doing anything wrong. We're exercising our rights as free citizens. We're the underdogs because this is a financial battle. Red Sox fans and Yankee fans always yell at each other and they say, "Oh, the Yankees are always good because they spent the most money." And you know something? It's true. It's a professional sport, and the teams with the most money perennially are always the strongest teams because they can buy the best players. Well, guess what? in this particular situation, we have to buy lawyers to fight them. Otherwise,
I'm getting a message from the Red Sox field, over at Fenway Park. The drones are en route to you right now.
Well, I'm just stating a fact. The Red Sox payroll's pretty high, too. That's why they're doing pretty well. Now, they're not one of the lowest spending teams in the major leagues either. But, the point is, it's about money. As we always say, follow the money, look at the money. And the reality is, as I said, some people, in this movement don't understand that facet of this initiative. That all the things we have done, good and bad, it still gets down to, are we going to be able to fight him in court? What happens if we run out of money and an injunction becomes a permanent injunction and this thing goes away? Does it make us wrong in our contention about Mayor Will Flanagan? No. It's about money. And what I'm trying to say is, buy tickets to these things, because just as we all banded together and we all feel he should be, part of this, unfortunately, is we're going to have to get money.
That's true. Money makes the world go round. At least that's what I was always told. But it's so very difficult for people to understand what they're doing, and even we, as a news organization, have kind of missed track a little bit, because we focused a lot on this issue, because it is an issue near and dear to our hearts, number one, but it is also an issue that is a major news breaker for Fall River and the people of Fall River. A lot of people are saying that this is causing a lot of headache for the city. As you are very well aware, we're the reason why businesses don't come to Fall River. We're the reasons why, the Lusitania sank. We're the reasons why the Titanic sank. I think we caused the Vietnam War too, but it's just very interesting to see that this whole cause reminds me of the time during World War II when people came out of their homes with every piece of metal that they had, and they threw it into piles for the Department of Defense to use to defend our nation. And a whole nation pulled together to move us forward. And in Fall River, the people of Fall River pulled together. 5,500 people that they could get to pulled together and said, we need to move this city forward. We need to stop the stagnation of this city. We don't have jobs, we don't have business, we have poorly performing schools. And the people who are responsible for this keep doing the job and keep getting raises. And, you have to ask. We have a poorly performing school, and they get excited when they have a level 4 school because we get more money from the state. We have a water department which is screaming because they have a CSO project that's eating up over 50% of the city budget, and they can't say, well, this is the guy who's responsible. We're just going to keep giving him a raise. Okay, we have a mayor who has been unable to put together a coherent budget in 5 years, but we're still going to say, hey, we're going to keep him. These people got together and said, no, this can't happen anymore. You've got to be accountable for your job. I've always learned, when you say it, you own it. I don't ever back down from what I said. I don't ever back down from what I've done. I'm not the biggest friend of anyone in the world, hence why I'm not an elected politician, because a lot of people don't want to hear the truth. But if you accept the truth will set you free. And it just gets to be very hateful during this process to tell anyone anything that's truthful, because it kind of like goes against their grain, whether you're a pro-Flanagan or a pro-recaller. But again, milder thoughts sometimes prevail, milder persuasions.
Cooler heads.
People like me are stubborn, and we just bang our head against the wall.
Well, the reality is that when this is all said and done, history is written by the winners. And that's a fact. So it's the winner that writes the history book, not the loser. So regardless of what the outcome is, whoever wins will be the one who gets to say, you see, we were right. And that doesn't necessarily mean it is right. The fact is that everything can be looked at from two perspectives. Everything can be looked at as being a positive or a negative. Some people are portraying the recall as a negative, and it's hurting the city. It's casting the city in a bad light. I disagree. They're entitled to that opinion. I believe that this casts the city of Fall River in a very good light, because it shows citizens who historically have been apathetic, not involved in a political process, have re-engaged themselves in government. And I think that's a good thing. Win, lose, or draw. What I think is a negative and hurts the city is what's going on the criminal side, regardless of who is right on that issue. We have two public officials embroiled in something that is just, it's unacceptable. Public officials don't meet in the middle of the night in secluded areas with guns, unless you're in Somalia. But the fact is, is this bad? I disagree with the people who say that this is a bad thing. I think there are people that are reading this in other cities and saying, something, those people in Fall River, they're okay. They got up and they're really trying to do something about this. Their voices are being heard. They're making noise. And that's what affects government. This is supposed to be a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. But if it's going to be a government of the people, it's got to be controlled by the people, if it's ever going to be for the people. So think about that statement.
It reminds me of a statement made by Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin said, "We shall all hang together. If not surely, we shall hang separately." Because, in a revolution, and that's what I like to call this, the losers are called traitors, but the winners are the revolutionaries.
Yeah, you're right, CJ, because let's face it, Franklin was right. If the British would have won the Revolutionary War, Benedict Arnold would have been a hero in the history books, and Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and Thomas Paine and all the rest of those, what we refer to as patriots, because they are, in fact, the fathers of our nation, would have been traitors, would have been terrorists, would have been a lot of names that we don't particularly like, that we use on people who don't agree with our form of government. But that's the fact. The fact is the winners get to write history. And if you go down south, you can see that, where the Civil War is still really not over. When they don't refer to the Civil War as the Civil War, they refer to it as the War for States' Rights and the War of Secession. They don't refer to it as the Civil War.
Yeah,
so that's very true. If you go down to the Alamo, there's a monument to the men who died in the War of Secession. So with that, stay involved, but let's stay on point. And thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching Spindle City Straight Talk. We're always glad to be here. If you got a story, let us know. You have a great day, and we look forward to seeing you next week.